The Symphony of Canterlot, Chapter 16, Reality of Horrors. After a sigh, I turned around to look at Bloody Mary herself lying comfortably on her side on the luxurious-looking white queen-sized bed, reading some files. This time, wearing her usual black trench coat and see-through black stocking ensemble. As soon as she noticed me staring, she closed the file and placed it onto the nightstand.
Don't be so surprised to see me here. Though, I think that we both have some explaining to do, love.
I dropped the bag onto the bed and went to the vacant right side of the bed. I prepared myself mentally for what was gonna come. So, should I start, or do you want the honors? I heard her take a deep breath, thinking it over, though the answer didn't take long to come.
It's fine, Lore. I think I need to come clean anyway. I started working for Celestia after she discovered I was spying on her. You know the sun job tradition the Albion has? As expected, I failed. And then I just about had enough of it with the Kingdom of Albion. So instead of returning to the Jolly Albion, I decided to stay here. I even have a full citizenship and everything. Celestia's heard that you died, so she had me investigate. It wasn't until yesterday that I managed to find you. I had to go to Manhattan blind. I was searching for you for months. No pony was willing to sell you out. I would have believed that you actually did die if I hadn't checked the morgue to only find a mannequin where your cadaver should have been. So, at some point, your friend's signature typewriter just decided to tell me that you were living in Canterlot under the name of Whisper.
I heard her say, almost sounding depressed. She was certainly in a melancholy mood, probably because I nearly died in front of her. I owed her my life, yet I was grimly determined to have my vengeance before I could consider any possibility of a life outside that. I guess it's my turn. Alright, what do you want to know? I said that, thinking about what she would ask, if anything. But then, I thought that she was simply gonna ask me one thing. What happened to me?
What happened to you last night? You coughed up a lot of blood, and you looked like you had a magical rebound. I had to get one of your adrenaline shots to get you stabilized long enough to burn a letter to Celestia to send in some medics. When it was Luna that showed up, teleporting into the room to come and get you, I was surprised. She had that look on her face that said that she knew you. She had me gather that duffel bag, and then we were all teleported to the Canterlot Castle medical wing.
Oh boy. Oh boy, that was tough to explain, but I had to come clean, so... Princess Luna is the client. I sought her out once I could, and we talked. We had a mutual enemy with the Thule Esoteric Order, so she hired me to identify their members, find out who they are, and then join her in hunting them down. We sealed the contract in blood. As for what happened last night, well, I saw something. I saw a tall figure draped in a cloak that switched aimlessly between gold and yellow, floating in the endless void amongst the stars as if it was projecting itself from beyond the known expanses of reality. Darkness peeked through the robes, and I saw the beginning of an endless amalgamation of shadowy tendrils peeking through the bottom of the cloak. A stone amulet hung in a gold chain from its neck, on a gold glyph of neither Zing nor Arabic origin, or from any other equine or known moral language. It was mesmerizing and inexplicable. As I tried and failed to compare it with anything else I had seen before, no Hyborian or Sir Meriden script matched. And then I noticed that the figure had been looking down the whole time. And when it looked to me, I saw a blank white porcelain mask, featureless but slightly cracked. Then it continued to crack more until finally it exploded, revealing. I began to hyperventilate, my blood pumping so fast that I could hear my own heart. I was having a panic attack. And then I spoke again. Celestia, I spoke again. It was beyond anything I could truly describe. The horror of its inconceivable features was making me sick. Voices from beyond the void of known space yelling to me in over a dozen tongues that I couldn't identify for the love of me. But I could see its intent. It wants to come to our world, and it wants to see its sibling Ted, but dreaming underneath the deepest oceans of our world. I know not why or how, but everything in my mind and body screamed that it would be the end of us, of everything. This world, It's not ours, Mary. This world was never ours from the start. We are nothing in the cosmic scale of things, and even the gods of centuries past pale in comparison. I knew since childhood of our insignificance, but now I truly have a grasp of the scale. We have to. And then Mary at some point got on top of me and slapped me out of my madness. My breathing started to calm down, my eyes still wide open, now looking into the nightstands to my right. I then looked over at her tear-filled hazel eyes on her velvety red face. Her breathing was rhythmic, but slightly panicked, and then she yelled at me, justifyingly so.
What in the bloody fucking show was that?
I looked at her. I did my best to look at her without averting my gaze, no matter how much I wanted to. I don't know, but that was what I saw after I gleaned into Octavia Philharmonic's mind. I saw her get physically abused by the family that uses her so, then it jumped to that. And that was that. I had nothing else to reveal. I stuttered a little bit, but that was all I said to her at the moment. Mary then quickly got off the bed and said the following.
I need to leave. I need to think. I need to think.
She then practically galloped out of the room. Slamming the door, she left. I didn't know what the fuck was wrong with me back then, but I knew that I stumbled into something beyond my depth. Into the first glimpses of the truth of our reality. Suddenly, my vendetta seemed small, insignificant, compared to what I had just stumbled into. But I still had a job to do. So, I got up, and I took my duffel bag and went into the room's luxurious bathroom located to the left of the bed. I opened my duffel bag to reveal a spare long, black woolen overcoat and fedora. I also saw a couple of boxes of .44 caliber bullets, my snub-nosed revolver, and my Kurdish dagger. I also saw my straight razor and some shaving soap mix tied to a small bag with my sanitation kit and a bottle of opiate pills. I figured it was about time I groomed, so I got to it. I got to mixing the soap with water using the shaving brush in a ceramic bowl that was graciously placed on a pedestal next to the sink. I then took the soapy shaving brush and used it to smother my stubble with the soap mixture. I telekinetically started shaving, and it was going well until I started hearing the dozen voices again. My telekinetic grip slipped a bit and I cut my chin, drawing blood. My heart rate began to accelerate again as sweat gathered on my brow and another panic attack began. The blood began to form the glyph that I saw during the astral projection ritual I performed the night before. But then, I heard the discharge of magic on the room through the closed door of the bathroom, and I snapped back to reality. I took a couple deep breaths to calm myself, and I took a look in the mirror just to make sure that there was nothing behind me. I then continued to shave, followed by a quick shower, hasty combing into my usual slicked back look, some teeth brushing, and a bit of mouthwash that was also in my duffel bag. And then, I put on my black overcoat and fedora hat. I actually thought for a moment that I began to look like myself again. I topped it off with an unlit cigarette. Some ponies, for some reason, always considered the cigarette to be intimidating. Considering that I've used the smoke and the flame of it as weapons before, it didn't surprise me. I then had a small pain at the back of my skull. Then I realized that I began to sense Princess Luna's magic. She was in the room, so just in case, I took my revolver and loaded it as fast as my telekinesis allowed me to, and I cocked back the hammer, and then placed the weapon in my coat. That's when I then opened the luxurious white door to find the princess laying on her side, reading the files that Bloody Mary left behind when she was there. She was also once again devoid of her royal regalia and jewelry, and her starry mane flowing on the unseen winds of the ether. She then looked at me and began to recite what she read while I was preparing for the day.
Thou once fought in what is called here the Galactic Foreign Legion for 5 years in a war between the kingdom of Sheba and thine ancient homelands of Gaul. Thou wert distinguished for survival inside enemy encampments in the ruins of Urasan, a place we are amazed was actually found at all. Thou fought thy way back into the galactic fortification of thy legion, leaving no survivors back in Urasan, in which thou wert trapped in for 3 weeks. This was after thee, as ordered by thy lords, used for alchemical knowledge to create a weapon known as the Spiritum Balar, which burned and even melted the enemies of Gaul. and when Sheba retaliated with the undead abominations known as zombies that besieged the fortification. You took a small band of warriors and managed to escape thy doomed fate.
I was shaking at that. She had no idea of what really happened back there. She was only reading the official report. Flashes of that time. But the first taste of war came back to me like wet moldy bread washed down with stale beer. The cannon and machine gun fire buzzing above my head from both sides as I was in a deep trench. My first kill with a sharpened shovel as I split a zebra infantry stallion's skull open in said trench, knee-deep in the blood-soaked mud and sand, wet with the lifeblood of many unicorn and zebras alike. Then I started to remember screams and the sight of the melting zebra civilians as I was forced to watch the effects of my most shameful creation. A creation that I was forced to make when my superiors learned of my knowledge and education. I had labored to produce the biochemical horror with a rifle aimed at my back and the threat of execution by my superiors. The foul smell of the corrosive effects of the spiritus balar as I watched it eat through flesh and bone. And how the victim screamed in absolute agony like the wailing of banshees signaling the damnation of your soul, only multiplied by the thousands. And when I resisted, I was sent back to the front along with many others on a suicide mission to capture the ruins of Urasan. They were all slaughtered, I was captured, tortured, violated, I was abandoned and left to die. I, in my foolishness, refused, and in my wrath I escaped their grasp, but I was trapped in the ruins. 3 weeks, being lost in that damn place, killing and scavenging from any zebra I could until I managed to crawl back to the fort of my station. Being tailed by the cursed undead. I came back to reality as I saw Princess Luna watching me with curiosity.
How art thou feeling? When we made the potion from my own blood, we were not sure thee would survive the ordeal of it being administered directly into thy veins. But here thou are standing in better vigor than when we first laid eyes on thee. Truly the ghost of Urasan lives up to his reputation.
The way she said it with such a prideful smile just made me sick to my stomach. My sins were no glory. And I wasn't happy that they were being recited to me as if they were accomplishments. She then threw me my trinket. I caught it midair telekinetically with that devil-may-care smile that would have been charming if I had been in a better mood.
We take it that is the origin of thy accomplishments. We're impressed that you learned to use such an ancient enchanted item. Did thou find it in the ruins of Urasan when thou was in the middle battle there? It must have been quite the advantage when thee learned how to use it.
At that moment, I snapped. I lost the ability to accept praise for such atrocities. So, I pocketed my trinket and started to trot towards the door, giving no heed or acknowledgement to Princess Luna. As she started to move towards me, I spit venom from my words. Of course it was, Your Majesty, but then you would understand the advantages of the use of such ancient sorcery, wouldn't you, Nightmare Moon? At the moment, I dared to say that. A telekinetic blast had launched me through the air, causing me to smash through the white ornate door, reducing it to splinters, and letting me slide incoherently onto the polished marble floor. I heard her start to sob. She then galloped to my left, and then I heard the crackling of electricity, followed by the unmistakable sound of magical discharge. Princess Luna teleported out of that hallway, leaving me by my lonesome. I got back on all fours, cracked my neck, and then started to quickly think about what had just happened. I sat on my haunches. Then I drew my 44 Snub revolver and gave it a good look. Judging by her reaction to the mentioning of Nightmare Moon, she remembered everything from that possession. So what horrors did she perform while in that state? Well, her guilt must have been immeasurable. For it, half of what the legends mentioned about Celestia's Vault War were true. Her atrocities far outweighed my own. She didn't know what I had gone through. She only read the official records, and those are hardly accurate. They're biased towards the Gallic Republic, and because they had no evidence of my mutiny, they never executed me. For a second, just for a second, I thought there was only one honorable thing to do in the face of everything I had done. So I took my snub-nosed 44 with my right hoof, and placed it to the side of my head. Then at that moment I began to pull the trigger, only for the weapon to be yanked out of my hoof. Not half a second later, that was the feeling of a sledgehammer going to my gut. It was a solid punch from a feminine brick-red forehoof, who I recognized belonged to none other than Bloody Mary. I heard the clicking and the resounding dings of the drop of the revolver's ammo to the marble floor. The sound of the brass and the lead hitting the marble was almost like the chirping of mockingbirds easing me awake. It brought me back to my senses and back into the world of the living. I straightened myself out and looked at Mary. She was looking with an almost sullen expression that those of us that live our lives of secrets and madness is expected to have. At that point, it was obvious that this went from a case to something so much worse that it's simply beyond me to give it a name. Thank you for that. I wasn't exactly in the best place, though, considering what happened. What are you doing back? She took in a deep breath and pocketed my revolver. She then came and gave me a hug, out of all things. Maybe she just wasn't trying to seduce me for her own purposes. Maybe she had a real heart underneath that cheerful spy and murder machine that she was. Not that I was any better. My hooves were even more blood-soaked. And I knew it.
Simple. I, in good conscience, could not leave you knowing that in the state you would probably hurt yourself, which is why I will be keeping the gun. I heard the conversation. It was rather harsh of you to pull the Nightmare Moon card on her.
I started telekinetically picking up the bullets, unsure whether to look Mary in the eye or not. I lost myself. She talked about it like I should be proud when she didn't know what really happened. I should have informed her, but the visions, the memories, they caused me to snap. She slapped her hoof to the face. Needless to say that she had the right.
I think that you should consider yourself to have a devil's luck, love. You should be chunky red and bloody flesh paste by now.
She wasn't wrong. One lightning bolt to the horn could have done that to me easily, and with the speed she could cast it, I wouldn't have been able to see it coming. So once I pocketed the bullets into my coat, I already started to have an apology for Luna forming in my head. Hi, sweetheart, but I think we still have work to do. The princess and I have a blood-sealed contract, even if she desires nothing but my head on a pike and for my corpse to be paraded through the city. I'm still obligated to continue searching for the Thule Esoteric Order. Mary sighed in resignation and decided to trot ahead.
I'll wait outside for you here, Lore. We may need some firepower, so hopefully Henry wouldn't mind giving us some firepower of his.
I then decided to go to the opposite direction. I needed a favor, and truthfully that favor meant everything to me. And there was only one mare that I could trust with it.